Must be taking care of French fries. You didn't answer.
Okay, we should be live.
All right, good evening, everyone. The meeting of the board is now called to order at 7:04 p.m. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I would like to ask everyone to turn off all electronic devices during the meeting and please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Carla.
Second, Chris.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? May I have a motion to approve the waiver of the reading of the legal notice of the annual meeting?
So moved, Mike.
Kathleen, second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so at this point, I would like to introduce our district clerk, Christine DiMartino, who will provide you with information on our 2021 budget.
Thanks, Jen. Good evening. The legal notice is available as an attachment to this agenda and is also available on our website. Pursuant to the governor's executive order 2.26, school districts were instructed to update their respective legal notices due to the COVID-19 pandemic and publish them 2 times prior to the annual budget vote and board election. This notice was published 2 times in 2 newspapers having general circulation within the school district. On Tuesday, June 9th, 2020, the district will hold its annual school district budget vote, vehicle purchase referendum, and board election by absentee ballot only. The following items will be voted upon. Proposition 1 is the 2021 school district budget in the amount of $60,057,225. Proposition 2 is to authorize the purchase of replacement vehicles for use by the district in the transportation of students and general use by the district for a total amount of $520,439.47. No tax levy increase is anticipated for this proposition. And finally, we have the election of 2 Board of Education members. Both seats are for 3-year terms currently held by Michael Franny and Carla Thompson. Petitions for these seats have been filled by Michael Franny and Carla Thompson. I would now like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Pecos, who will provide an explanation of the 2021 budget.
Thank you, Christine. Dr. Galuzzo, would you share the popular budget document on the screen? Thank you. So this is the required 3-part budget document that the state requires. They require us to break our budget down by administrative cost, capital cost, and program cost. On the first page there's the next page.
Sorry.
That's all right. Next page is just a general information about the budget hearing and the budget vote. And you'll notice on the bottom, voting by absentee ballot only. All ballots have to be returned by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, June 9th. Okay, so starting on the next page, the first section of the budget is the Board of Education budget. And you'll see from the 2019-20 to the 2020-21 budget, there is a reduction, and the board has reduced the amount budgeted for their meetings and conferences. The next section is district meetings. That is the annual district budget vote, and you'll see a decrease on that line too, also for legal notices and printing costs. The next section is central administration. That's the portion of the budget of the superintendent and assistant superintendent for instructions offices. There is an increase in that line for wages and also a small increase for supplies and materials. The next section is business administration. That's the cost of the business office. And there is an increase for wages as well as BOCES services. The district contracts with BOCES to process the district's payroll and some general ledger accounting work. On the next page, the first section is audit and treasurer. There is no change from the current budget to the proposed budget. The next section is tax collection and purchasing. There is an increase of $20,000 in that area, and that's because fiscal agent fees are included in that line in the budget. And with our capital project right now, we're borrowing every year on bond anticipation notes. And the more we borrow each year as we progress through the construction, the more the fiscal agent fees go up. They're generally tied to the amount of the borrowing. So there's an increase for those as we move into phases 2 and 3. The next section is legal and personnel. There is an increase in wages, and what we've done, I'll point it out later on. We've eliminated a couple of clerical jobs and combined some. One job being combined with the personnel office, so wages are being allocated here, but there'll be a reduction in another portion of the budget later on. Under public information and services, there is a slight increase under BOCES services line. Under operations, there's an increase for wages, but there's also a decrease on the electric utilities line. The district is looking at entering into a solar agreement with Solar Liberty. I can't think of the name of it, but for a solar array field that will net us $30,000 in savings, and we won't have to actually even build that solar field. So that's true savings. Under the maintenance budget, there's actually a reduction in wages because there was retirement during the year. On the next page, under special account items, there is an increase under supplies for central printing. There's an increase under repairs for the central data processing line, and you'll see later on in the budget, there's a reduction in the computer assisted instruction. We moved some money from basically the classroom computing to the office computing line. And then there is an increase for the BOCES capital charge in this area. The next area of the budget is instructional administration and curriculum development. There was a reduction for testing and conferences. There was elimination of 2 clerical positions in here, one in the high school office and another in the W.T. Hoig Center, and that is where the job sharing is coming in with the business office. There's a reduction in supply line and an increase in the BOCES services line. So all in all, it netted out to a slight decrease. In the staff development line, there was a reduction in BOCES services that we are signing up for next year. So there's a decrease there. In teaching, there is a reduction from the current year to next year. There was a reduction of 4 elementary teachers, an art teacher, a technology teacher, and a social studies teacher. Most of those were through retirement incentive that the district offered, but there was 1 layoff. Under special schools, this includes career and technical education, P-Tech, as well as special education. We reduced 1 speech language pathologist in the district. There was an increase in both these special education costs. We reduced 2 slots for P-Tech students at the Dunkirk P-Tech program because 2 students in 2 different cohorts dropped out after they started, after their first year. So we've reduced those 2 slots, and we did not sign up to send 2 students this year. So all in all, those 4 slots equated to about an $80,000 savings in that area. Under library and audio visual, wages represent the reduction there. We had a retirement on that line. Under computer assisted instruction, you'll see there's a slight decrease, and that was mostly due to repairs and maintenance, and that was that shift to the central data processing line. Other than that, wages did go up. I wanted to point out to everybody and to those folks that might be tuning in watching the presentation, this is the area of the budget that supports online learning and the computer assisted instruction, all of the stuff, the home instruction that the teachers are providing online for students right now since the COVID closure. this is the section of budget that handles all of that. Our technology integrators are the folks that are helping make all that magic happen, and this is the area of the budget where that happens. In attendance, we don't budget anything for that function. Under school counseling, there was a reduction of one high school counselor in the proposed budget, so that's the reduction that you see there. Under school social worker section of the budget, the increase is due to increase in wages, and that is the same for the health, which is the next section of the budget. And the health section would be all of the school health offices, one in each building. Under psychological services, you'll see a large reduction from 56,000 down to 9,600. That's because we did have a retirement of one school psychologist. Most of our psychologists are paid out of grants, and with the breakage from the retiring psychologist to what the new person will come in at, the grant will actually now be able to cover the rest of the salary that wasn't covered previous. So those salaries have been moved to the grants. On the next page, there's a increase of about $9,000, not quite $9,000 for advisor stipends. Those are all outlined in the collective bargaining agreements. Under athletics, again, the increase there is due to wages. And I just want to mention that if a sports season doesn't run, those stipends for coaching don't get paid. If there's no sports, then we don't pay the coaches. And under transportation, the reduction is due to a reduction in wages due to retirements. And I did want to mention that we still share our transportation director with neighboring school, North Collins, and with the Seneca Nation. And we do receive revenue that's budgeted in the revenue budget to offset that. But our transportation director does a lot of the training and coordination of those folks, as well as the routing of the buses. And that's a great example of shared services that works out really well. We don't budget anything for a census. Under employee benefits, you'll see a slight increase. New York State employees retirement and teachers retirement, there's an increase, I'm sorry, I have both of those lines, as well as the workers' compensation line. Social security taxes are actually reduced in this budget due to those position cuts that we talked about, as is health insurance. Overall, it nets to a slight increase. Debt service is up about $150,000. That's mostly interest due to the increased borrowing on the building project, as well as rising interest rates. I mean, they've gone up and down, but we'll see what they shake out at the end of the year here. But all in all, as we borrow more money on the building project, we pay more interest. And then the last section of the budget is the interfund transfers. And these are costs that we transfer to other funds for various reasons. The first would be we budget for a $100,000 capital outlay project to the capital fund. Every district is allowed to do one $100,000 project a year and be funded for that. So we've done them the past several years. We want to stay on that timeline, and this way the aid matches the expense and we're able to get more work done. We also budget a $50,000 transfer to the capital fund in case of an emergency. We've had, since I've been in the district, we've had a couple of those. Once we lost a portion of the middle school roof in a windstorm, and once we had the flood at the William T. Hoig building and we lost the gym floor. And we only access that interfund transfer if there's an emergency situation like that. We do budget a slight transfer to the cafeteria fund to pay any remaining negative balances at the end of the year, and that's by law, we have to do that. And then the last is about an $80,000 transfer to the special aid fund, or the federal fund, and that's to pay the local share of the summer special ed program. The state only funds 80% of that. We, by law, have to run that program in the F fund and then pay for the district share with the transfer. So you can see in the bottom line then, the administrative budget, better put my glasses on to get the number right, is represents $6,323,816. The program portion, the lion's share of the budget, is $43,396,070. And then capital represents $10,337,339. The budget increase over from the current year to the proposed is $74,438 or 0.12%. So it's a very small increase. The anticipated tax increase on this budget is $254,704 or a 1.43% tax increase. That is just below our tax cap. Our tax cap is 1.43%, and it's a few dollars more than what we're proposing for the tax increase. That difference between the slight increase in the budget and the larger increase in the taxes is because we're anticipating a reduction in state aid. Included in the state budget this year was a provision that allows the governor to reduce state aid to school districts and municipalities on a quarterly basis if the state doesn't realize the revenues that they've counted on to balance their budget. So we're anticipating with the COVID closures that we will see a reduction. We've tried to estimate what that might look like. And then we've also budgeted for a 20% reduction in our Erie County sales tax revenues because we know sales tax revenues are down. In fact, this quarter it was reported they were down 25%. We're hoping that as businesses open back up, that it evens out, and overall the 20% estimated reduction will be a good solid number for us. So all in all, a lot of unknowns in this budget this year, and the possibility of reduced revenues made it a difficult budget to develop, but I think we have a good solid budget. And as Christine DiMartino mentioned earlier, Proposition 2 is for the purchase of buses. I just wanted to give a quick word on that. The proposition includes the purchase of 3 full-size buses, 1 30-passenger minibus, and 1 wheelchair accessible 24-passenger minibus. Total cost, estimated cost is $520,439.47. This is down from last year's bus proposition. Last year, the voters approved 6 buses at a total cost of $570,048.22. So it's down almost $50,000. It's $49,608.75. We did have one question that we received online, and it pertained to the buses, so I thought I would answer that now. The person wrote, please explain how the taxpayers pay less when the school district borrows money to buy school buses. And the answer to that is we don't necessarily pay less. What we do is we don't pay it now. The state funds us for school buses over 5 years, and that state aid starts the year after you buy the buses. So if we bought the buses outright this year, we would have to pay 100% of the cost and then wait to get the aid over the next 5 years. What we do is we borrow on a bond anticipation note, and we start making the payments the year after the bus purchase. So the payments match the state aid. And then in the meantime, when we've received the new buses, we sell the old ones. We have the revenue from the sale of the old buses, and that makes up the district's portion of the principal and interest payment. The state does pay the district state aid on the principal and interest payment for the borrowing. And generally, because our district is in decent financial shape, we borrow at less than the state average interest rate. The state funds us on the average interest rate. So if they're funding us for borrowing at, say, 2%, we're borrowing at 1.5, we're actually making or reducing our local share of the bus purchase costs. So that's why we say in our proposition that this will have no effect on the budget this year, because there is no payment on those bond anticipation notes budgeted for 2021. That would start in 21-22, and then we would be receiving the state aid to offset against it. Christine, did we have any other questions? Okay. I will just point out then that attached to the back of the popular budget document are a number of additional required attachments. We're required to attach our New York State School Report Card Fiscal Accountability Supplement. That is attached, and that sort of details how we operate compared to similar schools and then statewide schools. And you can see it gives an expenditure per pupil under general education, as well as special education, and also kind of hard to read because the page is screwed. Yeah, that's it. General ed and special ed. And then behind that is the school's 2021 property tax report card, and that was approved by the board and submitted to the state. Behind that is our 2021 administrative salary disclosure. It disclose the budgeted salaries, or the contractual salaries for anybody with the title superintendent. So that would be the superintendent and the 2 assistant superintendents. And then behind that, we have to attach the school district tax exemption impact reports. And those attempt to give us information on the number of exemptions in our 3 towns, Brant, Eden, and Evans, and what the impact to the tax levy is on those exemptions. Does any of the board have any questions on the budget? Okay, thank you.
Dan, I just wanted to say thank you for your work on the budget this year. I know that it's always a difficult process, but we had so many unknowns and so many last minute changes, and some very, very difficult cuts that we had to make this year. And I think we're all feeling that. So thank you so much for all your hard work with that. Does anybody have any other questions?
Dan, I just have a quick one. If you could talk about the solar array that you were discussing. You said that might net us a savings. Was it 30,000 that you said? And over what kind of time period?
That's $30,000 a year.
Right.
You'll recall a few years ago, the district was looking at building our own solar array, and our permit expired before we were able to get everything, all the red tape taken care of between the federal and state governments. The company, it's AES Solar, that was going to do the install on our system, came to us. They had another school district that installed one that actually overbuilt their system, and they're not able to take care of or take advantage of all the credits that are being generated. So they asked us if we would be interested in joining in on that and becoming a joint owner on their system. The system's already built. We don't have to put it on our property. We don't have to build anything here locally. All we have to do is buy a share of the power that's generated and resell it to the grid, and we get the credits on our bills. So really, for no big process here, we can net $30,000 savings to our electric bills a year.
And that's per year, not just 1 year, but that's continuing every year.
Correct. And it depends on the spread between what we're agreeing to buy the power for and what the resale rate to the national grid goes to. But yeah, right now it's about 30,000 a year, and we estimate that it will grow, because as National Grid invests in infrastructure, line replacements, things like that, that drives the cost of power up. So
Great. Thanks, Dan.
It's bigger savings for us then.
Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted to point out, because I don't know if we talked about it during the public session. I know that it was in our information in the Penny Saver, Dan, but just to, for anybody that might be watching, the 1.4 increase equates to approximately $26 a year on a $100,000 home, and that's before the STAR savings, correct? Just so people understand the impact on their own tax bill.
Correct. And that's a reduction over what the increase was last year. I believe last year was $34. So it's a smaller increase. And again, you're correct. It's before STAR.
Great. Anybody have any other questions? Anything they would like to add before we finish? Nope. All right. All right. Then given that, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Kathleen, so moved.
Bill, second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
I'm going to stop the live stream. Just pause for a minute.